What's up and welcome back to, oh my God, that scared the hell out of me. Kinda Funny's The Mandalorian breakdown for episode 3. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes, and I am joined by the sad boy himself, Barrett Courtney.
Tonks Day, am I right, Tim?
Oh, you're so right, Barrett. You're so right. And rounding out the group for today is the one and only Anthony Carboni.
Is it Tongs Day? Man, Tongs Day feels like the new Bendu Day. Do you know what I mean?
If I heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. Of course, Saige would be joining us, but she's out there living her best life right now, doing some fun
She's
stuff.
Tronin.
Yeah, dude. She's doing the Tron stuff at Disney World. I am
Getting lost in computers.
so jealous. I just want to do that. I just want to let everyone know, like, my heart is racing right now because, like, normally we hear the intro as it plays and it, like, kind of, like, sets the tone and boom.
Hypes us up a little bit, you know?
For some reason, the audio for us didn't play, so it was just dead silent, and all of a sudden the things go off more delayed than I expected. So that hit real hard. But anyways, of course, this is Kinda Funny screencast. You can watch it every week on youtube.com/kindafunny or roosterteeth.com. You can get it as a podcast by searching your favorite podcast service for Kinda Funny screencast, and we'll be right there for you. We've been doing weekly breakdowns of every Last of Us episode. We had Troy Baker on for the episode he was in, and then we did a full
And who's that?
season. You might have known him as Joel in the original Last of Us game.
Yeah.
Carboni, you know?
Huh.
Very pretty
You
man.
think I would have heard of Troy Baker by now?
You would have thought. You would have
If he
thought.
was
Never
so
heard of him.
important. Huh.
We also had Neil Druckmann on our spoiler cast for the entire season, and that was a banger. You should definitely check that out in all the same places I just mentioned. And over on the in review side, there's so many movies coming out. It's a great time to be alive. Our Creed 3 review is up. Our Scream 6 review is up. For Patreon, next week we're doing, next Monday will be Shazam 2, and then the following Monday will be John Wick Chapter 4.
Ooh.
The hits just keep coming.
A 10 out of 10 from IGN.
I can't wait. I really can't wait. But
Yeah, if it was really good, they would have given it an 11.
that's the
True.
thing. That's the thing, man. Figure it out, IGN. Jesus. Today we're brought to you by Honey, but I'll tell you about that later. But if you don't want to hear the ads, remember, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunny. Just like our Patreon producers, Nathan Lamoth, Tripod Plus Plus, Trent Barry, James Hastings, and Casey Andrew have all done. Thank you. We love your support. Carboni, what'd you think of episode 3 of this show?
I loved it. I love episode 3. You know I'm a Dr. Pershing fan. And to see our boy Penn Pershing come back.
Love to get Pershed.
Whichever Penn Pershing this may be. I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of lore dropping in this one too, which I thought was very, very interesting. Somebody was just in the office that week going, throw this in, see what happens. Throw this in, see what happens. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Barrett, what about you?
Last week we kind of were theorizing like where the rest of the season goes. Are they going to build up to anything exciting after, already doing the bathing in the mines of Mandalore and all that stuff? And yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for in episode 3 is season 2. It took a couple of episodes to ramp up to like what they were going to eventually build towards. And yeah, we got a lot of interesting stuff in the last night's episode. And I loved that it didn't have a lot of Mando himself in it, but it didn't feel out of place like, an entire Mando episode in Book of Boba Fett, right?
I disagree with you there.
Oh, interesting. To me, it's building up to interesting stuff that I think is going to pay off in this show, and so I'm excited to see where it goes. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff to theorize about. I love visiting Coruscant, and man, we saw so much goddamn Coruscant. A lot of fun, or not a lot, but some good space battles as well in the intro there, and some fun things building up with Bo-Katan and stuff that we talked about last week that I think that might be interesting for her character to build up through this season. So yeah, I was a huge fan after the first 2 weeks of being like, all right, this is fun. This is kind of what I would expect from early Mando, but this was finally shifting into third gear in the third episode. I don't even know if third gear is a good gear. Kevin, is that a good gear?
Is third gear top tier gear?
It's a medium gear. It's a medium gear.
All right.
It's exactly the middle gear.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how somewhere along the line, and it was probably somewhere around the time they did a Mandalorian episode in Book of Boba Fett, we're just like, it's weekly Star Wars. Like, it's the Star Wars show, and like what it's actually called, it seems like they really don't give a shit about it. And I do think that this episode was a great time, and there was a lot of good stuff there. We're talking about the lore, talking about where we're going. I liked it with this show. I have no idea. Like, are they going to continue the storyline, or is it going to be finished next episode, or is it going to be completed in a different show? I don't know. I don't really care. I feel like they're building something with across all the different shows that they have across the different time periods. We have to work with what the movies gave us. There's the timeline. These events happen. There's these different groups. I like that they're going back and being like, all right, let's try to explain the New Republic. Let's set them up as total fucking buffoons, because that makes sense. When the Empire fell, they were like, cool, we have to figure out what's the rebellion turn into. And when you win and you set up the new standards and you kind of adopt some of the bad things the Empire did, then it's going to be kind of easy to topple you when the First Order comes around, which I feel like we're starting to see some of the early seeds to that as well.
Which is not a lot of explanation we got from the sequel trilogy of like, what's the power dynamic here? Who's controlling most of the guys? Are they both and so there's some interesting stuff there.
And I think it's really,
it's a lot like, it's a lot like showing that the New Republic is making a lot of the same mistakes that the Republic made. It's this idea of like, if you look at the idea of Star Wars as sort of like, that's okay, show everybody I'm connected to on Discord. Let's go, let's see how the sausage, baby. If you see how if you use Star Wars as the metaphor for current day politics, the idea of when one party gets current day American politics, which is what it usually reflects, when one party gets into power, they sort of go, great, now we're back in power, so we'll just do it the way we did it last time. Because now we're back and we'll just do it the right way because our way is the right way. And you see a lot of the old Republic and the New Republic doing a lot of the same stuff, like giving, well, Imperials, you got to earn having a name again. You have a call sign number designation. You're just like a name on a form to us, the same way the clones were. There's no reason to think of you as anything else. And they're just kind of overly bureaucratic, and they're just showing all the problems that they had before.
Yeah, that stuff really works for me, and especially coming straight off of Andor, like this kind of felt like in the same way that it felt like we got Mando episodes in Book of Boba Fett, it kind of felt like we got an Andor episode in Mandalorian. I do think it still was written like a Mandalorian episode, though, and it was like, it looks like a Mandalorian episode. But I liked going to seeing some of the lower Coruscant, like we did on Andor, and even just like the way they dealt with the stuff, and them having the numbers instead of names and all that stuff. It felt very much like the jail stuff from Andor, and I just
it felt weird, like it was like a slight taste of Dystopian, which I enjoyed, where it's like, a lot of the dystopian things we see is usually under the guise of the Empire, right? And so I thought it was an interesting kind of 180 to not have it be full dystopian, but still have like a little bit of like, shit's still falling apart here, but we're gonna give the presence like, we know what we're doing. And I love at the beginning where Pershing's talking to the wealthy people of Coruscant, and they're like, the one guy is like, oh yeah, I almost got drafted to the to the Empire, to the rebels. Who fucking knows? I don't care. And it's like, that's some real shit right there.
It is, yeah. Go for it, Anthony.
Yeah, no, I really loved all of that. I love seeing Pershing. I love seeing Pershing giving that big impassioned speech at the beginning where it's like, hey, I was just trying to do some cool stuff, and I'm trying to save lives, and this is a simple technology that could really help. And then, you see him and it's like, well, you're a very, very good scientist, and we're going to parade you around as proof of our very good program. But then when we don't need somebody to be doing press for our very good program, you're sitting in a desk not unlike the desk that our boy in Andor was sitting in, our Imperial boy in Andor, who's just trying to eat. He's just trying to eat his cereal, without his mom bugging him. But they're both put in the same cubicles. So I love that. That opening though was where they started the big lore drop, and the big lore drop just did not end though. With his beginning speech, where they're bringing in the Kaminoans. They're bringing in
a Kaminoan reference,
Like they brought in strand casting. They're really letting us know that they're setting up. Don't worry, by the time we've done what we want to do with Star Wars TV, you're gonna be okay with the Emperor showing up in Rise of Skywalker.
100%.
Like they've really taken that on as their assignment with Star Wars TV stuff.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
So
it's gonna be messy. Like, I think it's going to take a long time to get there, and it's going to be messy as all shit.
It took a long
I'm along for the ride.
It took a long time with Clone Wars, you know? Like, the goal for Clone Wars was, let's contextualize Anakin's fall a little bit better. And, yeah, that was not an easy task to do. In my eyes, they did it, but that's also, like, a lot for the viewer to be invested into, to have that actually pay off. And I think, you know, the Filoni way, it's probably going to be something similar here, but I'm interested to see how they go there.
I mean, this does, like, what we got from this episode is, if I had to bet, I would think that this was originally Rangers of the New Republic stuff that they have now kind of retrofitted into the Mandalorian story going forward.
I think that's probably true.
At least elements of it, right? And of course, they all connect, and they've talked about it as like the Mandoverse kind of connecting, and so like that makes a lot of sense. But I do like, for how long the runtime was of this episode, we got so much, and I feel like it was good.
I was giddy when I saw the runtime.
Yeah,
I was like, ooh, we're getting something juicy.
I think it's
today.
the longest Mando ever, which is pretty cool. But I thought they used it well too. Like there was, I thought, great setup and payoffs for the multiple storylines going. Whether it was the doctor situation going on with that woman who was awesome. I don't know her name, but
she gave her name near the end.
She has a name now. She didn't have a name when she was on Moff Gideon's ship, but her new name is Elia Kane.
But is that even her real name?
Yeah,
I don't
the
even
way
fucking
that
know.
she delivered her name, I was like, we're either supposed to know that as a reference, and I can't wait for these guys
or
to
that's
tell
some
me,
made up shit.
Or she's lying.
Yeah,
she may not be lying. It may not matter to her to give her real name at this point. Like, but it's just, I think it came off weird because we all thought the same thing in the moment, which was I supposed to know her name already? Did she already give that? And the answer is no, she never did.
Yeah,
she never did. But this setup, I mean, okay, we talked last week about how I see a lot of people talking during TV shows these days about filler episodes, right? You get a lot of talk about filler episodes. And this episode, because it was not a lot of Mando, and because I have not looked at the discourse, but this is something that I think a lot of people would consider like, this is a filler episode. This doesn't have anything to do with the main story.
These kids throwing out the word filler never watched an anime. That's what I'm saying.
They don't know what an episode is. It's a television show. It's an episode. It's a story. And it goes in and it tells a whole story. And then next week there's another one. It's an episode. So I really did enjoy this, though, because I think this is setting up so much stuff. And also, I just loved these two characters and this story.
Yeah.
Like this is an origin for Elia Kane, who may be helping Moff Gideon come back, maybe working for somebody else, right? You hear these officers sitting at their officer table drinking their Lego sake, and they're like, yo, I heard Moff Gideon disappeared or died on the way to the tribunal. I heard, man, they killed him. I heard, like, they're Epsteining him. Like, they're doing like Epstein theories about Moff Gideon. Yeah. And like, where is he? Is he alive? Is he coming back? Is he the big bad? There was another big bad that was hinted at. Barrett.
Was there a specific like moment? The what?
The warlords, them talking about.
Oh yeah,
when Bo-Katan and Mando say, "Yo, this is too big a fleet for some Imperial warlord. Yeah. This is not, this is not that. This is something bigger." And we know that Ahsoka's looking for it. We know that there's a bunch of stuff going on right now.
Yeah, we know he's back in some capacity because she, at least in season 2, she's asking people who would know where he is and that have more Empire ties. So that is interesting. Because in my head, when Thrawn comes back, he's coming back from slight spoilers, space whales, and he's not well connected anymore like he used to be. And so, but that's interesting to see if he's actually been back for a little longer than I've expected. And he's already regained a little bit of his seat at the table.
Speaking of that
Because
scene,
it could be Gideon and it could be somebody else too. We don't know.
Yeah.
absolutely, it could be some combination of them working together or something.
So that's
Like, I wouldn't be
an interesting takeaway of like how you guys felt Thrawn was being teased. Because in my head, throughout the meat of the episode, what's the officer's name? Arya Stark?
Aaliyah Kane.
Aaliyah Kane. To me, it felt like she's under orders from somebody to go after this guy. And in my head, it's like, all right, Gideon.
Is she? Because my read on it is that she's just a firm supporter of Gideon, and she's just like trying to like weed out the well, not sympathizers, amnesty program people.
Yeah.
Like who is still rocking for Gideon and who's not.
Well, not just that. I think she is trying to. Her mission had nothing to do with Pershing. I think her mission was to infiltrate.
Yeah, I think she's being told by someone to do that, and someone who would be thinking about how to infiltrate things and thinking fucking 6 steps ahead on how to easily dismantle trust in the New Republic would be Thrawn. And so that was my takeaway from it, because if Gideon's either dead or missing, I don't know if he would have been the one to give her that order to like, all right, infiltrate this program and all that stuff. That was my end where I was like, someone's giving her that order to be on this mission to infiltrate, and I think that's Thrawn. Langley
Neely in the chat says Gideon asked her to do something for him last time we saw her. I don't remember that.
So that was in the like recap. It was like really quick where she has a shot where it's like, what do you have for me, or whatever it was. But I think that was someone else that she was talking to. So
yeah, she called herself a communications officer, but you got the feeling that she was much more than that to Gideon from the scenes and from how close they were and how emotional she was about things that were going down. Like she like Elia's stuff in the first 2 seasons was mostly reaction shots, and you can tell that she was somebody who was very, very invested. So it's entirely possible she was more important to Gideon than we thought.
I love the amount of dogfights we're getting in the show, and like they look great. Like I feel like this is in my opinion, not a pretty show oftentimes, but I think that the dogfight stuff really works for some reason, and I think
they stand out.
And I think that they look good. Like they look closer to movie quality than I would have expected. And the choreography is fantastic. It's like super engaging and fun to see the ships go through the
where Mando flies up the N1 and then like has it like float back, like fall back down.
He does the bat wing.
He does the bat wing. And like, yo, that was freaking awesome. Seeing the N1 with ties, I just always love when we get different era type stuff like that. And like they're really delivering there. But Bo-Katan's ship is awesome. Like the way that the wings move, and when she does that like drift thing and pulls up one of them, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Like I really, really, really hope that one day we get a Rogue Squadron movie. I know that the one that is announced is like probably canceled and all that stuff, but like especially after seeing Top Gun Maverick, I want a Star Wars Top Gun Maverick. Like it'd be so fucking good.
Yes, 100%. 100%. You know, talking about that sort of stuff, I love seeing that Bo-Katan is able to air brake turns so fast that it messes with the artificial gravity. Like that's fun to see. But something that happens in that early scene, like right before the dogfight, when Mando says this is the way and Grogu mumbles and you can tell he's trying to say this is the way.
It's coming, baby. It's coming. Everyone's been like, what's his first words going to be? It's probably going to be this is the way, right?
Oh my God.
It's either going to be this is the way or it's going to be, listen, we know that it's got to be for all of our hearts. It's got to be daddy.
No, he's not going to do the daddy bit.
He's got to call the Mandalorian because it's not a Pedro Pascal thing. I mean, it is, but it's not. It is.
And that's why I feel like they're going to lean away from it because of all the recent daddy stuff.
They're going to lean in so hard. They did it's a trap joke in this, Barrett. They're going to lean in.
But on the other side, y'all were convinced that we were going to get a big monster fight this episode, and we didn't.
Not this episode.
Okay.
By the end of the season. All right. That's what I'm saying. I'm still holding out on that.
It's Chekhov's Mythosaur. I'm going to say it's coming back. But that's the thing is like people weren't hoping. Like it's not a meme to have a Mythosaur battle, but they will lean into a meme. Like Grogu only eats cuter and cuter things now.
Yes, that is a fact.
Like
Babu
he only
Frick,
messes with more and more stuff.
Yeah.
Well, he was just trying to hug Babu Frick.
That's what you think. You know what I mean? There's a look in his little eyes.
Dude, that kid eats. That kid eats living things. We know that. Mostly frog based, but I would not be surprised if it wasn't.
He loves a good frog.
You know, I want to talk a little bit about that woman right there. Well, it doesn't look like I'm pointing at her, but I guarantee. Thank you, Bo-Katan. But I want to do that after a word from our sponsors.
I'm every woman.
Shout out to Honey for sponsoring this episode. Honey is the easy way to save when shopping on your iPhone or computer. And thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is a thing of the past. And we all know there's nothing better than the feeling of saving money. Honey is the free shopping tool that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. When you check out, the Honey button appears and all you have to do is click apply coupons. You wait a few seconds, you see the fun little dancing guy. Honey searches for coupons and it finds you the best ones. And then you just watch the prices drop. We here at KindaFunny have been using Honey for years, and it's helped us save thousands on tech, costumes, food, you name it. Honestly, I just love how easy it is to just set and forget and save. That's the best part. Honey doesn't just work on desktops, it works on your phone too. You just activate it on Safari on your phone, you save on the go. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out. You can get PayPal Honey for free at joinhoney.com/kindafunny. That's joinhoney.com/kindafunny. I want to talk about Bo-Katan because I really like the direction that they're taking her in this story, and I appreciate what they did in this episode. Them starting off right where we left off last time. We get the whole nice situation going on with the doctor and all that, but then we also what we get of Mando and Grogu and Bo in this, I thought was a nice little bow on part of the story and like a push off towards where we might be headed with this. And I love the flipped ideologies of Mando and Bo, of both of them kind of learning about each other's views of what it means to be a Mandalorian. And now her adopting the way and having the helmet on. And like, it's interesting because they can take it a lot of different directions, but I like her after we've seen her being sat on her chair because Sasha Banks left her. Now kind of looking to religion to kind of like absolve her of that. And like in the same way that Mando had to go to the mines that he didn't believe were still there, and now he believes, so he's more on both sides of the understanding of this. He now has, dealt with his sins or whatever, and now he's back in the game. But now she's also doing the same thing, and I'm just really interested on where they're going to go with it, because I still think that at the end of the day, the armorer is going to be an antagonist, and the Mandalorians are going to have to come up with a new set of rules. But how do we get
antagonist? I know we keep saying antagonist, but I don't think it's going to be that strong. But I do think that there will be something where we see that the armorer being stuck in these ways and being the head of these ways is going to lead to conflict within the watch. I do think you're right there. I don't think it's as bad as she's going to be a full-on antagonist, but I do think she is completely representative of the old ways, and I think we're going to see that old ways and new ways are both just a little too, the same way Empire and Rebellion are just a little too similar in bad ways.
Yeah.
And the titles of these episodes, what I've noticed, are very interesting in that they can talk about multiple characters per episode.
Oh yeah.
When we talk about the apostate, it was talking about Din, but it was also talking about Bo.
Yeah.
Everybody had left Bo alone as well. When we talk about the convert here, we are talking about a couple of people. We're talking about, you think initially Pershing.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, oh no, we're talking about Bo-Katan.
Oh, yo.
And so I love the sort of parallels that we're setting up in all this, and seeing Bo-Katan just like crumple emotionally under the weight of people just welcoming her and congratulating her unconditionally. Which, by the way, hard thing to pull off when all of your characters are in helmets.
Yeah, but I did. Like, see,
but I felt
she killed it. She really crushed that performance there. Like her in this episode reminded me a lot of Andrew Garfield in Spider Boys in Amazing Spider-Man 2, where it's like we don't see somebody act like Spider-Man that well often, and it's all him with the mask. We don't need to take off the mask every 5 fucking seconds. It's like his body language sold it. The way that she moved, I believe that she believes. I believe that at least for this moment, she's like, this is what I need in my life. And I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I loved her seeing the what is it called? The Mythosaur?
Uh-huh.
Like logo, the thing on the wall at the end of just like this it feels almost like a challenge for her to like maybe stick to these ideals and see where this takes her, and see if this is a better direction for her to become the leader of Mandalore, like she's kind of been wanting for a while. And so, yeah, I really loved all of that in the beginning. And we were kind of talking about this during the ad break. I think it's interesting that, yeah, she did not bring up the Mythosaur to Mando at all. That, like, she was just kind of, she was asking him of like, yo, do you see anything down there? And like, I wonder if it's like, she doesn't want to tell him for a couple of reasons of like, yeah, maybe in the back of her mind, it is like what you guys are saying of she wants to be the one to master it by the end of this season, and we do get a Bo v Mythosaur fight where she bests it and it becomes her a little pet guy, or like I wonder if she even believes that she actually saw what she saw.
Straight up, there's definitely the religious and like spiritual side of it that is just as valid.
But you want to talk about your anime moments? This is the kid, the protag, seeing some sort of animal in the forest and having that quiet moment with the animal in the forest. You know what I mean?
Who's the Pokemon you always bring up at the end of Pokemon Season 1 or whatever with Ash Ketchum?
Ho-Oh.
Yeah. It's like that.
We're seeing him next week, baby.
Where it's just
Ash.
She's seeing it, and it's a connection to her. It's a connection to the old ways, right? The Mythosaur is a legend, right? Like, oh, Mandalore the Ultimate or Mandalore the Great. I forget which one is canon and which one isn't. But Mandalore, I think it's Mandalore the Great in canon. Mandalore the Great comes and conquers the Mythosaur, but the Mythosaur is an extinct beast. Nobody's seen a Mythosaur. And so it's sort of, to her, it's like, oh, the minds of Mandalore are magical, and I had to memorize all this stuff. But now Mando comes back and saves her. She saves him. She sees it down in the waters, which are not even supposed to be deep.
Right.
You know? And then she goes back and she sees the Mythosaur skull. She sees the old ways. She didn't see what was in the armorer's black cauldron there, but like, what was that helmet, by the way?
Yeah.
That Sauron ass Mandalorian helmet that was in her
Oh, I totally missed that.
Her cauldron. Huh. Yeah, she puts the living waters in and they react. With the cauldron. You see there's
something in the water there.
There's some helmet there. Now, here's why you didn't notice, Barrett. I watched this episode on my iPad because fuck HDR and fuck the brightness of these shows. And so I saw more details than you did.
But it was also like
the brightness was fine, but you didn't see the whole helmet.
It was 12:40 in the fucking morning. All right, Carboni. I'm fucking out of it at that point.
And it was dark. It was night and it was dark.
Shit.
Can I talk about some of this? This was a lore drop episode, and I want to get a lot of this stuff out of the way. So first of all, I want to talk about some of the stuff that was mentioned. We talked about strand casting already. We talked about the Kaminoans. The first incarnation of Dr. Pershing. I'm not convinced this is the same Dr. Pershing. The first incarnation of Dr. Pershing.
Holy shit! That would be
Do you remember?
But that's
the first incarnation of Dr. Pershing was wearing an "I'm a clone" patch from Kamino. Do you remember that? If you were a clone, you had to wear the patch that had the two people on it. Pershing was wearing that. Pershing was wearing that. And I could have sworn we saw Pershing get blasted. So I don't know. I could be digging
That's
too
such
deep
an interesting thing, especially of like what happens to him at the end of this episode, which we'll have to talk about in its own separate conversation. But that'd be so interesting. Fuck, what the hell, man?
Wow, that is.
He did have like a bit of a burnt, like singed ear.
Yeah,
but like they also did destroy his lab, so maybe he came out a little crispy. I don't know. But so here's the thing. So they talk about all this old stuff, and first of all, they had Pershing's driver is mentioning all this cool stuff to do on Coruscant, and it's all stuff. He mentions 3 kind of like cool things to do on Coruscant.
The little driver boy who looks like the original concept for C-3PO a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And the things that were mentioned were like all from the Jedi Academy series of Legends novels. So it was all stuff that was introduced in Coruscant that they're bringing back. So things like the botanical garden and the dome and stuff like that. Now they also mentioned this creature, which is the Manta Bog of Malastare. And the Manta Bog of Malastare is from the old West End Games Star Wars RPG. And they're these giant, like, they look like big blankets, and they fly and they swoop down on you and just swallow you up.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. So they talk about that. They also, I don't know if you heard.
Oh yeah.
But when they were in the their little drink, sucking on their LED pops, the music in
Rise
the
of the
background
Resistance
is the Resistance
which
theme,
is so
the
fucking
John
cool
Williams Resistance theme,
because-
but played like a fucking carnival that doesn't matter theme.
But what's great about it is like Carnival, but I also think that this is a deeper connection, thinking back to Solo, where diegetically in Solo,
when he's getting recruited,
there's the Imperial March playing, and it's like propaganda music almost. I like that this kind of feels like propaganda music in the same way, but it's the Resistance theme. That shit was awesome. I was like, this is really damn cool.
It was really cool. I loved everything that was going on with that. I like the kind of new lore that they were popping in about Coruscant with
Coruscant Accords.
The mountain. Just the mountain. It's just like, this is the highest mountain on Coruscant.
Because have they ever really addressed that of like there actually being like a planet, like actual Earth underneath this entire city?
It was so wild. It's so, I don't know. I mean, you know that it has to be true, but you don't think about how high up these cities have to be.
Right.
Like they talk about it. I think they talk about it in the High Republic a little bit, but we haven't seen it. So because, we haven't seen, I mean, maybe they showed it in the comics. I don't know, but High Republic stuff talks about it.
Okay.
But yeah, you were talking about the Coruscant Accords, which is the galactic concordance between the Republic and the Empire. And one of the things they apparently prohibit is cloning for very good reasons. Turns out they were right to prohibit cloning. Somehow Palpatine has returned, but that's the inciting incident that sort of makes our guy Pershing, who just wants to do good, just wants to do his best.
And I was so because they're talking about the convert again, multiple meanings there, and I felt that even when the episode title popped up, I was like, this. I feel it already a little bit with Bo, and like with the episode description, I knew that we were going to get a little bit of a Coruscant Pershing action. And I was like, I wonder where we're going with this. And I was convinced what Aaliyah was trying to do was like the way that the actor performed this character, I thought was so fucking good because the entire time I knew she was up to something.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And but like Pershing is just kind of like the smartest dumb person or dumbest smart person, who can't kind of see through that stuff. And I thought that she was gonna like in her ways of through powerful suggestion. Maybe use your cloning for, some of the stuff that, my boss wants to do,
Yeah. When she initially said, we can help you with that, I was like, first order. And I thought she was going to introduce him to some of the beginnings of the First
free
Order.
thinkers,
Because
some
it has
free
to be happening
thinkers
soon, right? Because like this, if I always forget this, but at this point, we're what, 9 years after Jedi? Because this is a couple of years after
season 2.
Yeah, so it's like that means we're 20 years out from what we see in Force Awakens. So
yeah, man. Yeah,
20 years wild. Is like in Star Wars time. I mean, I guess like the entire rise and fall of the Empire was
within 25 years, I think.
Yeah,
roughly.
So that's interesting there.
Yeah, I also love what Elia was doing. The way she sort of gets Pershing to do stuff is really funny. Even when you talk about the mountain and the touching of the mountain, and it's like that's against the rules. She's like, "Go ahead, go on, do it." And just the moment of him,
just do it, just a little bit,
just do it, just touch it, it's just the tip, just touch the tip of the mountain. So when she has him touch the mountain and like nothing really happens, right? The little droid comes out and says no. She's conditioning him, and it was such a good moment when you look at that in hindsight, where it's just like, it's cool. See, you break the rules a little bit, nothing happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she's just pushing him further and further and further. And there was something very sinister to the way she was playing it the whole time. The whole time. I love it.
And her taking him to the like abandoned Star Destroyer. Nothing
Mhm.
cooler than that shit. Like it's just
We love an abandoned
the
Star
reveal
Destroyer.
shot. I'm like, this is great, and then them walking around in it. I'm like, this is just cool shit, man.
Yeah.
Well, and not just like what we find out is in those yards, it's not just Imperial stuff, even though it's thought of as Imperial stuff.
Yeah.
We find out that they've decommissioned everything.
Because of
And
Mon
so when you
Mothma.
Right. And so when you hear about like, well, why weren't they ready for the First Order when the First Order came? What's going on? We're seeing some of that now, right? Like we're seeing the idea of like, well, we decommissioned all of these.
They got comfortable
ships.
with their victory, you know.
We're not cloning. We're not building weapons. We're not doing any of that stuff. And so they just weren't ready. I don't really like that as a message, but I understand it as like a need for the story. Because it just shows that they were just resting on their laurels and they didn't really care. As a sort of like subtext, it makes me feel a little icky because it's about like how you have to constantly stay militarized to be ready. But for the story, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Let's talk about the end of the episode as we wrap this guy up, Barrett.
Yeah, just my big question with Pershing here, with how fucked up it ends with his story of, you know, he's like, this is a mind flare, like you know,
Yes!
you guys are gonna wipe my memory, and it's like, oh no, it's just a little tickle, it just gives you some good memories. And
by
I want
the
to know
way-
how Arya, whatever the fuck her name is, I'm never gonna get it right. Alaya, how is she gonna walk away from that when it's like very clear of like, all right, the one dude walks out of the room and then she ramps up the machine. Like, obviously, he's going to come out of that super fucked up, and no one's going to be like, but I guess, you know, New Republic's, you know.
It was a cool moment,
buffoons.
though. It was a cool moment. Like, I understand what you're saying, but the fallout of that moment, they're going to need to make it make sense. But the thing that I loved about that was the idea of like, oh, no. This is not a mind flayer. This is the cool New Republic version.
And this
but we
and
kept
that
knob.
That scene was
We
like
kept
another
that
moment.
knob.
Yeah.
Like, we would never use the knob, but we just keep the knob around.
Exactly.
You know what I
and that
mean?
was like a little bit of the, you know, not Andor level, but Mando level of Dystopian that I enjoyed. You know, that it was, you know, the check-ins with the droid of do you feel any resentment towards the New Republic? And I thought all of that was very good and very cool.
This team watched some Andor and was like,
Oh, yeah.
are we allowed to do that?
Are we allowed to get slightly maybe PG-13 a little
We're
bit?
like, oh, okay. This is something we do. All right, great.
Yeah, it's
Let's all do it.
exciting times, man. Let's close this one out. Any closing thoughts, Carboni?
Yeah, I love this episode a lot. I hated seeing my boy Pershing done dirty, but I have
Maybe
a
we'll see
feeling-
another clone of him.
I think we've
Love
got
that.
some more Pershings on the way. some cooler, better Pershings that may do some really neat stuff in the future. But aside from the Boba Fett style editing, where it's like we're sticking with one story the whole way through and then showing you the second story, I loved everything about this. I could use some more intercutting, but that's just a stylistic thing from my busted attention span. Other than that, I loved everything that went on in this episode. I like what we're doing with Bo-Katan, and I like that we're leading up to a big bad in a season that feels very episodic so far.
I'm having a great time with it. I just love how they're just throwing a lot of shit into the stew. And I think that at the end of the day, after it gets all stirred up, it's going to be a good stew. Is it going to be the best food I ever had? Probably not. But so far, I'm like, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. You're delivering on the cool Star Wars shit. And you're dabbling with a little bit more adult themes and trying to make real TV. And I appreciate that. I'd rather them attempt it than just completely not try it all. So
as long as the stew has some Star Wars Rebels flavoring by the end of this season, like I'll be a happy boy, you know. And
I
that's
think it's
and that's
already
all-
in there for you, baby.
Yeah, but it's right now. It's just like they put in a little shake, and I want
The
to see
stew's
more.
got to simmer.
I
It's gotta
know, I
cook.
know. Again, you know, we started in Gear 1, and then we got it over to Gear 3, and you know, we'll get to Gear 9, I assume. At some
it's probably
point.
9. Yeah.
And I'm very excited for the rest of the season, even more so than I was at the end of episode 2.
Let us know in the comments below how excited you are for the rest of this season. Carboni, where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at A Carboni, except for Twitch, where I'm at Anthony Carboni. Twitch, you cowards, is mine. Give it back to me. And Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you can find me over on twitch.tv/Pixel Circus in the mornings with Saige, who's troning it up right now. But we normally do a news show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So go check that out.
Hell yes. Until next time, may the force be with you.
Tonks Day, right?
Am I right? It's Bendu Day, baby.